Hey, this is Darius for Ancient Rome Live. In this episode of Traveling Along the Via Appia, we're going to be exploring the area from the Castelli Romani, the Alban Hills, all the way to Terracina. And one of the incredible highlights is a special canal. Let's explore a little known area of the Via Appia, and of course, hit the subscribe button to continue to follow along the Via Appia. We're going all the way to Brindisi. This is one of the great monuments of the Via Appia. We're just outside of Ariccia, and at this point, the Via Appia starts to ascend, and it follows along the rim of an extinct volcanic crater. So to match that ascending rise of the Via Appia, a huge terrace wall had to be constructed. This still stands today. It's 230 meters in length. It goes up to 13 meters in height, it's 8 meters wide. Cars still pass over top today, but it's this portion of wall with these huge blocks of peperino tuff, so very local tuff, still does the job, still sustains this part of a modern road. This is the kind of exciting discovery you can make as you travel down the Via Appia. And I assure you, it's not easy to find this particular portion of wall. It's kind of hidden. We're in Campania, we're in the countryside, and it is just astounding to see this, which was once recorded in prints by Piranesi. It's still here, it still resists the test of time, and it's still massive monumentality, going back at least to the 2nd century BC, if not earlier. Ariccia is located just 16 miles from Rome, and it's the first real stopping point along the Via Appia, with way stations and rest houses. This was the main city along the Castelli Romani region of ancient Alba Longa, still dominated by the Alban Lake. The standout feature of the town today is the so-called Horatii tomb and the papal viaduct that eventually replaced the ancient viaduct of the Via Appia. How exciting is this? This is the 19th milestone along the Via Appia in its original location. And this is about as good as it gets. So much of the road around here today, of course, is modern cars passing by. But right here, we are reminded that there were these impressive markers along the entire length of the Via Appia from Rome to Brindisi. And just beyond here, there's an impressive stretch of Via Appia that does not have modern asphalt on top of it. How exciting! So from Lanuvium to Velletri, historic cities along the Via Appia, we have this section here, and it's just a beautiful contrast. I'm walking at the ancient level. I'm walking on the original road right here, and then off to the side, slightly higher up, is the modern road. And that modern road is going to take you to the same destinations. This is what it's all about. I think when you come to get to know the Via Appia is that you can explore and you can go through sections, and everywhere you see different remains of history, portions of retaining walls, the remains of tombs that line this road all the way to Rome, getting more monumental as you're coming into the city. But everywhere, if you just look for it, you can find the trace remains of this rich history, this rich legacy. And it gives you a chance to just slow down the pace and enjoy just how much is preserved throughout Italy. What an incredible country, and the Via Appia, what an incredible legacy. The hills eventually descended into the Pontine Marshes, which had to be drained for the Via Appia. At the convergence of 3 roads from Tusculum, Alba Longa, and Antium, there was the Tre Tavernae, the 3 shops, that originated as a post station, the first mansio o mutatio for overnight stays. Paul the Apostle and Horace both mentioned it just 30 miles from Rome. Nearby was the Forum Appii, just 39 miles from Rome, and beyond, Tripontium, spanning the Nympha River. So much of being along the Via Appia, it's about the journey, it's about the experience. And you don't always have your machete with you so that you can see the ancient monuments that are beautifully preserved. Cars still pass over Tor Tre Ponti Bridge. This is dated to the time of Trajan. It's 40 meters long, but you hardly notice it if you're driving in a car on the modern pavement right where the Via Appia still is today. But nestled within the parapets, you still have the original inscriptions telling us that this was constructed in the time of Trajan, and if you make your way through the brush, you can still see the magnificent arches that sustain this bridge for thousands of years. I'm in the area of the Pontine Marshes, and this was a place famous for malaria. But by the time of Augustus, there was a canal, much like the canal that we have here still today, that was navigable for 19 Roman miles, from here all the way to Terracina. And famously, Horace tells us in his famous voyage along the Via Appia that he got aboard a barge, it was pulled by donkeys, and carried him through to Terracina. It was an alternative to walking or riding in a carriage on the adjacent Via Appia. And it's this sort of location here today outside of Terracina that recalls that reality that existed in Augustan Rome along the Via Appia. Along the Via Appia, you have this monumental tomb along the canal that carries you through the Pontine Marshes to Terracina. And this is attributed to a certain Clesippus because inscription detailing the life of Clesippus was found in the nearby vicinity in the Pontine Marsh area. And the story goes, according to the ancient sources, that Clesippus was a deformed, humpbacked individual who was bought by a Roman matron around the middle of the 1st century AD by a Roman matron. This Roman matron's name was Geganius, and she ultimately fell in love with him and married this slave that she purchased. And he died Clesippus Geganius. And that's the name of the inscription that was found in the nearby vicinity and is attributed to this massive tomb. And we're told in the ancient sources that Clesippus himself took the wealth that was left to him by his wife who had freed him, and he built a magnificent tomb along the Via Appia. So we have an incredible circumstance of evidence. This potentially helps us identify today this tomb of the imperial age with the personality of Clesippus himself along the Via Appia. Thanks for joining us on Ancient Rome Live. You can find a lot more content on our website, ancientromelive.org, and of course you can also donate so that we can make more fantastic content. We're so excited about ancient Rome and empire and all that has been left behind throughout the Mediterranean. Let us know in the comments what you'd like us to make next.